What are gonna be the real consequences of COVID, like in 20 years? Hopefully we will be better prepared for the next inevitable pandemic. The fact that the economy is, to put it mildly, severely disrupted. Getting your shot every year. More jobs will become remote as employers realize it's more efficient. The kids of today will be paying financially for this. 20-year-old rolling their eyes when their parents talk about COVID-19. The fall of the CCP. Wealth disparity between the rich and poor will increase greatly. Social safety net benefits for the poor will be reduced greatly. Wages for the middle and lower class will fall significantly. Outsourcing will increase significantly. Most people will have to defer retirement by many years. The leaders responsible for their botched handling of this crisis, and those who had taken advantage of it to garner money in corrupt means, will get away scot-free, and the general public will be the ones to pay the price. The CCP will come out of this more in control than ever in their own country. Not nearly enough will be done to prevent the next pandemic. Both working and studying at home have been legitimized in many cases. Staying at home will be prevalent norm for more PPL. China will be seen by all other countries with invariable skepticism and wariness. Mass tourism will be redefined. Any appearance of a new epidemic will set in motion immediate measures. America for several years has become a fundamentally unserious country. This is the luxury afforded us by peace, affluence and high levels of consumer technology. We didn't have to think about the things that once focused our minds: nuclear war, oil shortages, high unemployment, skyrocketing interest rates. We even elevated a reality TV star to the presidency as a populist attack on the bureaucracy and expertise that makes most of the government function on a day-to-day basis. The COVID-19 crisis could change this in two ways. First, it has already forced people back to accepting that expertise matters. It was easy to sneer at experts until a pandemic arrived, and then people wanted to hear from medical professionals like Anthony Fauci. Second, it may, one might hope, return Americans to a new seriousness, or at least move them back toward the idea that government is a matter for serious people. The colossal failure of the Trump administration both to keep Americans healthy, and to slow the pandemic-driven implosion of the economy might shock the public enough back to insisting on something from government other than emotional satisfaction. People will judge the mishandling of the pandemic, saying that the leaders of the world failed humanity. Relentless complaints about the debt accrued from economic relief packages are too heavy for future generations to bear. Potential reduction of meat consumption or heavier regulation of street meat. I haven't become completely vegetarian due to diet restrictions, but I definitely learned to make more vegan dishes. From an emergency management perspective, 9/11 and Katrina swung the pendulum towards favoring federally led responses to large disasters. The COVID response and federal bungling will be viewed as the beginning of a shift of responsibility, capability, and ownership back to state and local leaders. For better or worse. We're only 2 months into this, so this is all wild-ass speculation. But retail has been teetering on the brink of death for years, and this is going to be the final nail in the coffin for a lot of it. Sure, things are reopening, but people aren't going to be jamming to fill the malls. Major clothing retailers that have a store in every mall might cut back to 1 or 2 per city. A lot of jobs just aren't going to come back. Same with restaurants. A lot of people, especially young people, are realizing how much money you can save cooking at home. A lot of servers aren't getting their jobs back. The economic slump is going to require a lot of stimulus, which means in 20 years, taxes are gonna be crazy. The socialization effects of young kids during this time. By the time children are 3 years old, 80% of their brain is wired, developed to accept, love, how to play, how to learn, ECT. By age 5, 90% of their brain is wired. All the children who are missing out on a year or more of socialization could have unknown consequences, strong family ties where they are afraid to leave home, a harder time making new friends, difficulty socializing, depression or other mental health issues later on in life. I know people think that keeping their 2 or 3-year-old home, even elementary kids, isn't a big deal. But having this time where they are kept inside, and only seeing their parents and siblings is going to affect him in unknown ways 20, 30, 40 years down the road. Kids who are just starting school this year will have a completely different experience for the rest of the school life. IRC There have been studies about the first few foundation years of school being a clear predictor for the rest of your learning life. No idea what will be different, just that these kids are not going to be like any other cohort of students. I hope animal abuse in Chinese markets stops. RLY. I'm guessing another baby boom might happen after the quarantine, so I guess we'll have another boomer generation. Gonna use the opportunity to say, okay, boomer, to teens and young adults by then lol. The hatred against Chinese, I think. The amount of power local governments have gotten away with exercising with no consequence will set a precedent that will see enormous polarization in America's politics to a frightening level. My worry is that more jobs might be pushed abroad to cheaper countries when employers realize jobs can be done remotely. I'm wondering if more people will move to the burbs. I've always loved my neighborhood in spite of having very little space and a tiny yard, but lately I've wished that we lived somewhere with a bigger yard, with trees, a driveway with a basketball hoop, room for home offices, etc. Especially if telecommuting becomes more common or if kids can't go back to school in the fall. Not so much a consequence but more of a benefit. Now that the world has been dependent on an internet structure that couldn't cope with the load for the past few months, I expect some major boosts to internet service and speeds. Companies will start saving money for emergency funds, then new management will take over and spend all the money meant for emergencies on frivolous shit. An emergency will happen and the employees would suffer again. I wonder how colleges, universities will be impacted. My college moved all its classes for the next 3 semesters online, and the first question that was asked was, will you be reducing tuition? I think if they don't, a lot of people won't be able to go to college or finish out their degrees. Conspiracy, or people believing that COVID was just a conspiracy and the millions that died never really existed. 20 years from now, nursing homes will be filled with people without a cent to their name because they lost it all during the lockdown and market slump. Kids who don't even have jobs right now will be paying for their parents' care, could be 5 to 10K a month, which is an impossibility for most.